Welcome to Dozochem. This video covers covalent bonding and drawing Lewis structures that involve exceptions to the Octet guideline. The first exception is hydrogen. Hydrogen always has 2 electrons next to it in the Lewis structure. So it'll always look like this with 1 bond coming off of it and no lone pairs. And you can see it in the classic Lewis structure for water. Each hydrogen just has 1 bond and no lone pairs, so 2 electrons. The second exception is for the element boron, and it says that if boron's bonded to 3 outer atoms, it can have 6 valence electrons adjacent to it in the Lewis structure. So if you look down here, boron trifluoride, there's 3 bonds coming off the boron, that's 6 electrons, and that's totally fine. There will be situations where boron's bonded to 4 things, and you'll see it with an octet. But if it's bonded to 3 things, it's perfectly fine for it to have less than an octet. The last exception would be expanded octets, which is for elements where the center atom is not in row 2, or in other words, it's in the 3rd row of the periodic table or downwards. Anything that's in the 3rd row or below can have an expanded octet, which is more than 8 electrons next to it in the Lewis structure. So I put a list here of elements from the 2nd row of the periodic table that cannot have an expanded octet. But then these 3 examples down at the bottom show you some expanded octets. The Phosphorus Pentachloride, the P has 5 bonds coming off of it, so that's 10 electrons. It can have an expanded octet because P is in the 3rd row. Then we have sulfur hexafluoride, so sulfur has 6 bonds coming off of it. That's 12 electrons, which is fine because sulfur's in the 3rd row. And this last example, iodine's in the 5th row, so it can have an expanded octet. There's 4 bonds and 1 lone pair, so that's 8 plus 2, 10 valence electrons on the iodine, which is fine because iodine's in the 5th row. And this is a polyatomic ion, so clearly polyatomics can have expanded octets as well. There are some other exceptions that are less common, so I haven't covered them in this video, but you may run into a few other examples as you learn about Lewis structures. So that's it for this video. Good luck.